The Supreme Court made its immunity ruling less than 24 hours ago, and Donald Trump and his lawyers are already trying to take full advantage of it. Last night, Donald Trump's lawyer, Will Scharf, talked with Caitlin Collins on CNN and tried to argue that Donald Trump's fake elector scheme was an official act, or at least that the bulk of the actions taken were official acts and would not be allowed as evidence in court. If you guys don't remember, the fake elector scheme was when Donald Trump and John Eastman got together 7 slates of false electors, not the duly elected people, but false electors, to claim they were the real electors in an attempt to get Mike Pence to choose those slates to supersede the real slates. It is subverting the will of the American people in the rawest form. It is trying to entrench your power by taking the votes away from real American citizens and trying to replace them with false slates. This was not an official act. This was an act meant to benefit Donald Trump. This was an act for his own personal gain, again, to try to entrench his power. But Donald Trump's lawyers are arguing the opposite after this new Supreme Court ruling. I'll play the CNN clip in a second, but first, this article reads, Donald Trump says fake elector scheme was official act. And I have a feeling the words official act are going to be the most used words in politics over the next few months. A Donald Trump lawyer has said that an alleged fake elector scheme was an official act and so should be immune from prosecution in Trump's federal election interference case. Speaking to CNN's Caitlin Collins on Monday night, Will Scharf, an attorney for the former president, laid out the next steps for special counsel Jack Smith's case following the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that former presidents have absolute immunity for their official acts, but no immunity for their private acts. In a federal indictment filed in August, Trump is facing 4 charges pertaining to his alleged attempt to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Of course, he denied all wrongdoing. Trump's team is alleged to have created and submitted fraudulent certificates to falsely claim Trump had won the Electoral College vote in certain states to disrupt President Joe Biden's victory. Speaking to Collins, Scharf said that Smith's, quote, case should be dismissed because it concerns official acts, not private ones. Quote, we've admitted consistently that there are acts alleged in the indictment that would constitute private conduct, but we believe that if the official conduct, the immune acts in the indictment are stripped away, that Jack Smith doesn't have a case, that this case should be dismissed on that basis, he said. When pressed by Collins whether using a, quote, fake slate of electors would constitute enough for a trial, Scharf denied that the Trump team had used false slates and said using alternate slates was an official act. But again, it is not. These were not simply alternate slates. This was Donald Trump's attempt to pressure Mike Pence into picking the slates that were not duly elected. There's a process by which people become duly elected electors, and these people did not go through that process. They were by definition fraudulent electors. Scharf continued, quote, we would say alternate slates of electors, and as we argued before the Supreme Court, alternate slates of electors have been a method used by previous presidents. Alternate slates were used one time in one state in Hawaii decades back, and it was a completely different scenario, completely different. He continued, quote, we believe the assembly of those alternate slates of electors was an official act of the presidency. After its Monday ruling, the Supreme Court has sent the DOJ case back to a lower court in Washington, D.C. to determine what constitutes an official act. This is likely to delay the case, meaning it is less likely it will go to trial before the November election. Legal experts have suggested Trump could dismiss the charges in the case if he wins the election. Meanwhile, Trump celebrated the ruling in a post to Truth Social, writing, quote, big win for our Constitution and democracy, proud to be an American. In fact, it's quite the opposite. This is a dark day for our democracy when a president is ruled to be above the law, even when this exact same president tried to subvert the will of the American people. The fact that he might get away with that is insane to me. The Biden campaign, on the other hand, said the ruling would not, quote, change the facts, that Trump tried to, quote, overthrow the results of a free and fair election. Honestly, I think the Biden campaign is being a little bit optimistic here. They need to start fighting fire with fire. Of course, this doesn't change the facts, but this changes how the courts are able to engage with the facts. Quote, today's ruling doesn't change the facts. So let's be very clear about what happened on January 6th. Donald Trump snapped after he lost the 2020 election and encouraged a mob to overthrow overthrow the results of a free and fair election, the campaign said in a statement. Quote, Trump is already running for president as a convicted felon for the very same reason he sat idly by while the mob violently attacked the Capitol. He thinks he's above the law and is willing to do anything to gain and hold on to power for himself. Very well said from the Biden campaign. Watch this clip of Trump's attorney Will Scharf being confronted by Caitlin Collins on CNN.
You have conceded here the last time that you and I spoke in April, and John Sauer, who was arguing this before the Supreme Court, that some of what's alleged would be considered a private act. So that would mean that at least part of this case from Jack Smith would go to court based on what you have said before, right?
We've admitted consistently that there are acts alleged in the indictment that would constitute private conduct, but we believe that if the official conduct, the immune acts in the indictment are stripped away, that Jack Smith doesn't have a case, that this case should be dismissed on that basis. I don't think there's sufficient private conduct here to support the indictment, to support the ongoing prosecution. And that's what we're going to be litigating in front of the district court now.
Even just the false slates of electors, you don't think that would constitute enough for a trial?
Well, we would say alternate slates of electors. And as we argued before the Supreme Court, alternate slates of electors have been a method used by previous presidents, most notably Ulysses S. Grant, to ensure the integrity of prior elections. So we believe the assembly of those alternate slates of electors was an official act of the presidency. That's what we argued before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has reserved that issue for determination by the district court, and we'll see how arguments fall in front of the district court.
Yeah, we've walked through those historical references here before. None of them compare to what we saw in 2020 with the fake slates of electors. But Will Scharf, great to have your reaction to this. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I would disagree with that, Caitlin, but great to be with you. Thank you.
Now, I highly doubt that all of the actions that Trump took behind closed doors were official acts, even if Will Scharf is arguing that. For example, like Caitlin Collins said, placing fake slates of electors in multiple states and pressuring Mike Pence into picking those slates of electors is not an official act whatsoever. But what I could see going forward is Donald Trump committing crimes in the openly committing crimes if he becomes president, so that he can say they were all official acts and not private acts. There are so many ways that you can game the system to gain immunity and I'm absolutely sure that Donald Trump and his lawyers are already figuring that out. I mean, they're already trying to neuter these other cases, the Jack Smith case. Even Judge Aileen Cannon pushed that case back. There are so many ways that they could game this, and it is not good whatsoever. Also, keep in mind that Supreme Court ruling perfectly lays the groundwork for Project 2025 by embracing the most extreme version of unitary executive theory possible, which says that the president has complete control over the entire executive branch with no checks from Congress, no checks from the Supreme Court, which is how it's been since the inception of America. Since the inception of America, the Supreme Court and Congress have been able to check the president's power, but not anymore. Either way, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment a blue heart, catch my live stream later, hit the subscribe button, and have a great day.